What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a busy show as we have a lot of volleyball to get into, especially on the NCAA women's volleyball side. How about San Diego topping Pitt in its season opener? I was wrong about the Toreros. They are indeed the real deal. But a team that I wasn't wrong about was Arkansas, as they downed Washington over the weekend. How big was the Razorbacks' win over the Huskies? We had some other upsets, such as Utah State upsetting UCLA. What on earth? How did that happen? And Baylor upsetting Wisconsin. And let's go to the AVP, as we had quite the eventful scene at the Virginia Beach Open, and we also have some FIVB World Championship action to recap on the men's side. So you know what time it is. Hand me a volleyball. Set up the net, because I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Hope you all are having a beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, and as well as a great Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you are tuned in to Set Point episode 157. And without any further delay, let's get this show on the road. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio platforming it. IE Sports Radio can be found on several different streaming platforms or social media handles such as Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok at IE Sports Radio. That's where you can find IE Sports Radio on social media. You can also find them on Facebook by typing the word IE, then Sports, then Radio in the search bar. Also, IE Sports Radio has a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you click on the link, you'll see a Patreon link that starts at $5 a month. This will get you a shout-out from all of our shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on our flagship show in a little bit of a segment called The Defining Moment with Larry B. Thank you, everyone, for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Key to the Gate, and Marcus Losgreat, and Anonymous. Yes, the donor's name wishes to be anonymous, by the way. So, with all that said and done, let's get started. So, we're actually not going to recap NCAA women's volleyball to start it out. We're actually going to recap the AVP, because everyone can obviously start off with NCAA volleyball, because NCAA volleyball season is here, but you all have to realize we have the AVP, and Set Point is here to discuss all things volleyball, not just NCAA women's volleyball, NCAA men's volleyball, NCAA beach volleyball, but I'm recapping the AVP if need be. I'm recapping FIVB, which would probably be the VNL or the FIVB World Championship or any of that sort. I'm also going to be recapping the NBA, because let me tell you all, the Set Point recaps all things volleyball. I'll even get into a little high school volleyball. More on that a little bit later, but over to the AVP. So the Pro Series is back in action after a 3-tournament hiatus, as basically we didn't see too many of the big-time names. Like, we didn't see, on the women's side, we didn't see, like, the Sarah Hughes, the Kelly Kalinskis, the Therese Cannons, and the Sarah Sponsels, or any of those big-time names. This was just the Pro Series where all of the somewhat heard pairs all over the world were able to take part in this, but it wasn't like the big time. But all of these pairs had one thing in common: win the tournament. And at the end of the whole tournament, surprisingly enough, it was Allie Wheeler and Megan Kraft who came out on top, as they both topped the Maestrini girls in the championship match. So overall, it was a great tournament. As I actually want to confirm if that was Allie Wheeler and Megan Kraft and not Deanna Kraft. I feel I get this weird and strange feeling that it wasn't like, Megan Kraft, but I'm here to confirm because I am that guy. I am that person who gets this strange feeling. And I'm looking at the Gold Series, the Chicago Series. So the Virginia Series, the Virginia Beach Tour, honestly, I think it deserved a little bit more recognition, if you ask me. But considering you look at this week's tournament, the Chicago Open, that's a Gold Series tournament, which is definitely gonna draw more talent attention, as it was actually Deanna Kraft and not Allie Wheeler and Deanna Kraft. So I thought it was what's her face. I thought it was Megan Kraft that partnered, but I forgot there's another Kraft in the world. There are too many Krafts. Kraft macaroni and cheese. Just like Kraft macaroni and cheese and whatnot. But it was Deanna Kraft and Allie Wheeler that won the tournament. So that is completely my bad, and so my apologies to everyone for messing up. And yeah, that's my bad. There are so many Crafts in this world. Again, it's so tough to tell when it comes to who's who, but it is Deanna Kraft and Allie Wheeler that came out on top. It is their first AVP tournament championship as a pair, so good on them for beating the Maestrini girls in the championship round, which I really thought that was impressive. I didn't think they would sweep them. I knew they would win, but I wasn't expecting a sweep. So that was kind of my main takeaway. The Maestrini girls are obviously very talented. They swept their way into the semifinals, which I thought was pretty impressive, as they swept Carly Skojit and Katie Dickens, while Deanna Kraft and Allie Wheeler swept Aurora Davis and Tegan Van Gunst in the semifinals. So looking at the Maestrini girls, they didn't even lose a set up until the final, where they just got swept in the final against Allie Wheeler and Deanna Kraft. I think it's quite interesting, to say the least, just because the Maestrini girls, I think, would have gotten a good point boost on the road to the Phoenix World Championship, because the Phoenix Championship is going to be happening in a few weeks. It's not going to be next week, but it's going to be the second to last week of September. It's going to be on the 24th, I want to say, all the way to the 25th. Either way, it's getting closer and closer. The Phoenix World Series is going to be it's going to be pretty exciting. It's going to be exciting times. And this tournament, the Chicago Open, is going to be huge. The Phoenix Championships are on the 23rd and the 24th, and it will be held in Phoenix, Arizona, obviously. But for right now, back to the Virginia Beach Open, I was very surprised the Maestrini girls got swept in the final. So, again, that just goes to show that how hard that Allie Wheeler and Megan Kraft, or Deanna Kraft, has been working. They were actually the third seed overall, and believe it or not, they actually swept their way through the entire tournament. They didn't lose a set they didn't even lose a set at all, which is quite impressive. So, good job to Allie Wheeler and Deanna Kraft, and hats off to the Maestrini girls. I think they're going to be a pair that no one wants to see in the Phoenix Championships. And once the Phoenix Championships are underway, when it comes to the AVP, all bets are off, because every pair is going to want to eventually, win that championship. Just because the AVP hasn't really updated its point system or the point rankings of each pair ever since the Manhattan Beach Open. The last time it was updated was the Atlanta Open, or was it the Atlantic City Open? Either way, they haven't updated it for a couple weeks, so I'm interested to see if Sarah Hughes and Kelly Kalinsky are atop the leaderboard, or if we'll see a change in power from Therese Cannon and what's-her-face, Sarah Sponsel. And then you also can't sleep on the other pair, that is Gina Yarongo and Julia Scholes. That pair is underrated in my opinion. So I really think that the AVP's Phoenix Championship could be up for grabs. So I'm really excited for that said tournament. But we have the Chicago Gold Series Open, and that's going to also be exciting. Now on the men's side of things, this time I didn't get the last names right, or the first names. Or this time I didn't get the first names wrong. The one that won the men's open was I'm going to probably butcher this name, Piotr Marciniak and Tim Bogren, as they swept Avery Drost and Chase Frischman. Now, here's the thing about Avery Drost and Chase Frischman. They actually had a semifinal bye because their opponent, and I hate to bring this up, their opponent, looking back at it, it's Travis Mewerder and John Michael Plummer. Unfortunately, I want to say they dropped out due to injury just because the set scores were 21-0, 21-0, and that never happens. And that final bracket update was so quickly updated, or the semifinal bracket was so updated quickly. I really was like, no way. And I've seen it happen before. I've seen pairs withdraw from tournaments. It happened earlier in the season. I think it was in the Louisiana Open. But either way, it is a bummer that we had to see a pair withdraw from the tournament due to injury. It also sucks because, well, the withdrawal came in the semifinals, which basically gave Avery Drost and Chase Frischman a first-round bye. Now, as for the other semifinal, Marciniak and Baumgren outlasted Timothy Brewster and Kyle Friend at 21-9, 19-21, and 15-10. So, basically, it looked as if the odds were against Marciniak and Baumgren, but they swept their final matchup as they won 21-16 and 21-16. I'm quite impressed that they were able to win. And again, there was lots of parity when it came to this tournament. When it comes to like the Pro Series and the Tour Series, it's more wide open without the top pairs, such as like the Phil Dalhausers, the Tri Bournes, the Trevor Crabbs, the Chase Buddingers, the Taylor Crabbs. You get what I'm trying to say. But either way, that's kind of how the Pro Series was won. And as for the pair that won on the men's side, I want to say they didn't drop a set like they did. Yes. They did drop a set in the semifinals, but they won their first. No, they didn't win their first ever, whatchamacallit, their first AVP tournament. But they did place first, which was quite amazing. So, honestly, I'm quite impressed. I am happy for them, and I hope they do win another tournament down the road. Will they be in the Gold Series? That still remains to be seen. But overall, Marciniak and Baumgren was very impressive, as they weren't even the 1 seed. They were, and believe it or not, Brewster and Friend were the 1 seed. But as for Marciniak and Baumgren, they didn't drop a set up until the semifinals. So the fact that they were able to do that is quite impressive. So that's pretty much it for the Virginia Beach Open. Shout out to Virginia. But going over to the Chicago Open, yes, the Chicago Open is this weekend, and the entry list has been released, which makes me happy, and I'm really excited for this. It's 16-team main draw, so we might not see the biggest names ever, but what can you do? So, on the men's side, we have James Schalk and Theo Brunner as the number 1 seed. And then we have Triborn, Trevor Crabb, number 2 seed. Katie C. Patterson and Phil Dalhouser, 3 seed. Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander, 4 seed. And then we have Troy Field and Chase Bunger, 5 seed. Miles Partain and Paul Lottman, 6 seed. Miles Evans and Andy Benish, 7 seed. And then Jeremy K. Spear and Billy Allen as the 8 seed. And then Timothy Brewster and Kyle Friend are the 9 seed. So coming off of this tournament, they should have a big chip on their shoulder. And then Avery Dross and Chase Frischman, the runners-up, are also in this tournament. They are the 12 seed of this tournament. So their climb of winning this tournament is going to be quite steep, but anything is possible. As for the women's side, I should also mention, since this is a 16-team tournament, there is a qualifier. There is a qualifier, but I guess a few teams get a bye, but it's mainly a main draw. All but 4 pairs get the main draw. The only pairs that don't get the main draw are Jake Dydrich and Hagen Smith, Ed Ratledge and Cody Caldwell, Skylar Del Solol and Andrew Dentler, and then lastly we have Kyle Friend and Timothy Brewster. So those are the pairs that do not get the main draw, as those two have to play on Friday, and then they get to see the action on Saturday if they win. And then on the women's side, the number 1 seed is Sarah Pavin and Tina Graudina. Then we have Brandy Wilkerson and Melissa Humana Paredes. I'm seeing names that I haven't seen in quite a while. Then we have Therese Cannon and Sarah Sponsel. Sarah Hughes and Kelly Klinska are the 4 seed. Kelly Cheng and Betsy Flint are the 5 seed. Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss are the 6 seed. The Maestrini girls, Larissa and Lily, are the 7 seed. And Lauren Fendrick and Gina Yarongo are the 8 seed. So surprisingly, we aren't seeing Gina Yarongo and Julia Scholes. I'm not sure about that, but I can't fully confirm what's happened with them. By the way, Megan Kraft is indeed partaking in this tournament. She is paired up with Emily Stockman. So, just to clarify, Megan Kraft didn't win the Virginia Beach Open. It was Deanna Kraft, as she paired up with Allie Wheeler. So this time, Megan Kraft is in this tournament. She's not seated high, but don't tell her that. I think that's going to fuel the fire and make her be more motivated. And then only five pairs get left out of the main draw. That happens to be Carolina Marciniak and Kimberly Hildreth. Then Kelly Reeves and Delaney Merwitter are another team that are left out of the main draw. Megan Rice and Jessica Gaffney are another Seaside qualifier. Then we have Molly Turner and Carly Skogit as another Seaside qualifier. And then lastly, we have Caitlin Mulaney and Carly Can. Everyone else is a main draw pair. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how this tournament turns out. I think it's wide open on the women's side, and I think it's wide open on the men's side. I think the Virginia Beach Open was kind of a dress rehearsal as we finally get to see what the AVP tournaments really have to offer, because this could be huge coming up for the Phoenix for the Phoenix Open. And apparently, that's probably going to be the final big-time tournament, as the Chicago Open starts on Friday and goes all the way through Sunday. But the Phoenix Championships is September 23rd all the way through the 24th, which is basically a Friday and a Saturday. Looking at the info, according to the AVP website, the AVP Tour is blazing through Phoenix for the first time since 2009, and the only thing more intense than the climate will be the championship competition. Different from all other events this season, the Phoenix Championships will feature the top 4 teams per gender from the 2002 Gold Series events. In addition, 2 wildcard spots per gender will be added to the field. This will be a 2-day competition on 1 court, so it's sure to get intense. Can you handle the heat? So, unfortunately, we have not gotten the entry list, obviously, because there's another tournament happening. But it's sure to be a barn burner, because after the Phoenix Championships, we're not going to get another AVP tournament for another month and a half or so, as the next AVP tournament following the Phoenix Championship will be the Huntington Beach Open, which is quite nice. I want to say I'll be able to attend that tournament. I'm not entirely certain. Matter of fact, I will actually. I'll do my best to try to. I promise you that. Because I have never been to an AVP tournament, even though I'm a person that does cover the AVP. This will be the Tour Series, by the way, so I can't really, I'm not going to say, the big-time names, like the Sarah Hugheses and the Kelly Kalinskis and all those other types of pairs. But either way, I think it's going to be a fun tournament. But looking at the Chicago Open, it's going to be a fun tournament as well, because this could make or break a pair's opportunity to become the 1 seed of all the point rankings. So I'm very excited for this tournament, and I really think we're going to see pairs go all out. I think it's going to be quite the event, and I'm excited for it. So that is going to do it for the AVP portion of the show. Once again, I apologize if I messed up the craft names, especially on Twitter. I thought it was Megan Craft, but I forgot there's another craft, Deanna Craft, so I do apologize. So just to fully clarify that this is the first ever AVP tournament win for Deanna Craft and Allie Wheeler, as they actually didn't lose a single set all weekend, which is quite impressive, and I really think that this is going to be quite nice, and it's good to see youth actually rise to the occasion. Nothing against the Maestrini girls, but I think it's great to see the future of the AVP, because obviously we're not going to have April Ross and Alex Kleinman doing it all, because I don't know if anyone knows this, but April Ross actually just re-enrolled in college, as she's actually I think she's in grad school at Concordia University, Irvine, and she's going to get her her doctorate in coaching and communication? I'm not entirely sure, but she is going back to college, and she is going to try to be a head coach, which means that we don't know what we're going to see when it comes to April Ross. It's going to feel weird when we don't see April Ross in the fold when it comes to whatchamacallit. So April Ross is getting her first. She's back in college at Concordia University, Irvine, and she's getting her master's in coaching, not her doctorate. So her master's in coaching. So expect to see Coach April Ross, whether it's in beach volleyball or high school or college volleyball. Either way, expect to see Coach April Ross sooner rather than later. Alright, now that's it for the AVP portion of the show. So, going onward to some international volleyball play. So, we had the first week of the FIVB World Championship in the books, as we actually had quite a bit of on the men's side. I should also clarify that this was on the men's side, and although I'm just going to be as real as possible, all the teams that were seeded first are not surprising, are basically they're, how do I put this? They're actually expected to win their tournament, or their pool. Now, I'm not entirely certain who got seeded where, but either way, this is basically the preliminary phase. The final phase is basically going to be somewhere down the road of September. But either way, this is only the first week, as we only got 3 pool play matches. So starting off, we had Serbia in first place in Pool A, as they are 2-0. And I want to say it's Tunisia and Ukraine are tied for second in Pool A. Then in Pool B, we have Brazil in first place, followed by Cuba and Japan tied for second. This is in Pool B. In Pool C, we have Poland and USA. I also should mention that Poland is the reigning champion when it comes to the FIVB World Championship, the FIVB Men's Volleyball World Championship. And then also the U.S. is, yes, they are the defending champion of the FIVB World Championship. And they're also the number one team in the nation. So the U.S. is going to have its work cut out after beating Bulgaria and Mexico. Though the U.S. had to grind it out against Bulgaria. But either way, I think the U.S. is going to have a barn burner against Poland. And who knows, maybe this U.S. team has turned the corner. Because I remember that the U.S. wasn't the greatest, but now they have drastically improved. So I feel the U.S. has potential to do big things. Jumping over to Pool D, we have France in first place, while Slovenia and Germany are tied for second, with Slovenia having the tiebreaker, having won one more set than Germany. Then in Pool E, we have Italy in first place in the pool, while Turkey and Canada are in second and are tied for second. And then in Pool F, we have Netherlands and Ireland tied for first. And overall, that's pretty much it for all of your pools. And overall, looking at it, we have a lot of we have a mixed bag of pool play pools that are that are I'm trying to find the perfect word, but we have a mixed bag of pools that have two teams tied for first place, and we have a mixed bag of pools that have only one team in first place, and then we have two teams that are hopeful to advance or win the pool. But either way, this is only week 1. Week 2 is going to be quite interesting going forward. I am excited for what's to come when it comes to the World Championship. And I look forward to it. I think September 3rd we're going to get is basically the next round, the round of 16. And then also the quarterfinals will be on September 7th. And then the final is slated for September 11th, as well as the 3rd and 4th place game. So that's basically the men's side of things. I want to say the women's side of things doesn't really start till I wouldn't say later, but I think it's it starts 2 weeks after the men's side of things. So we'll see what happens on the women's side. I don't have the set schedule just yet, but I can possibly look it up. Either way, the start date is on September 23rd, and then the end date is on October 15th. So Poland and Netherlands are the hosts, and I think it's going to be quite exciting to see what can happen. So that's it for the FIVB portion of the show. Continuing on with some international volleyball play, we had the U.S. and Turkey face one another in an exhibition match at Long Beach State on Saturday and Sunday. So the first match between the U.S. and Turkey both matches went the U.S.'s way. Either way, it was a great pair of exhibition matches. So overall, it was great, and I can tell that it had an electric atmosphere. So the first set went to the U.S. as they narrowly won at 28-26, which was quite impressive if you ask me. And then the second set, the U.S. won at 25-19. And the third set, Turkey, with all that talent, because I know how good Turkey is, I feel I need to say it again. Turkey is probably a team no one wants to face. But Turkey won the third set 25-20. And then the fourth set, the U.S. kind of dominated the fourth set as they won at 25-15. And then on the second day of the event, or on the second day of back-to-back exhibition matches, the U.S. won the first set 25-19. And then the U.S. actually held off 4 set points. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. So the first set, the U.S. won 25-21. And then the second set, the U.S. straight up flattened Turkey, 25-12. Then in the third set, the Turkey really showed their true potential as they won the third set 26-24. And then the fourth set, Turkey won it 25-22, which I don't think is surprising. Turkey does have so much talent on that team of theirs. I really think that that's going to be a great team down the road. But then the fifth set, the U.S. was able to win it 15-13 as they were narrowly able to escape. Well, not like escape, but they won the exhibition match 3-2. So I don't have the official stats. I don't think stats were taken, but overall it was a great match. Looking at some of the highlights, it was a loaded atmosphere as there were just the seats were probably like filled to the brim. So that was definitely a fun experience for anyone that went. Now, that's pretty much going to do it for the for international volleyball play. So before we head to a commercial or anything of that sort, I do need to inform you all of two unfortunate things. So the first unfortunate thing kind of ties into the exhibition matches. So the first unfortunate thing that happened that I experienced was that I didn't get to go to this event. Unfortunately, I was unable to. I told y'all that I was going to be at the exhibition matches between the U.S. and Turkey, but I actually emailed their marketing director on Tuesday. I never heard back from them. They never gave me the green light to say, hey, you're good to go for our exhibition match, or no, you're not good to go. And keep in mind, I want to cover this as a member of the media. Yes, I could have gone as a fan, but honestly, I really think that Set Point deserves a spot as a member of the media, not as a fan. As a volleyball podcast, I need to have the good best available spot in terms of like covering the game. And the fact that I didn't hear back on if I could cover the event as a member of the media kind of disheartened me. Now, it could have been the case of there was like no more spots at the media table left, or there was like limited media spots, or if it was first come first serve. But either way, not hearing back or saying it's first come first serve or any of that really disheartened me. And it's like, dude, it's like all you just need to do is just reply and say, hey, we have a spot for you, or we don't have a spot for you. It really is kind of frustrating if you ask me, just because I was partially wanting to go and gonna tell people I'm a member of the media, but it's like, if I do that, is security gonna really believe me? No. And are like the USA and Turkey directors going to like believe me? No. I don't really want to like go there and say, hey, I'm part of the media. I have this volleyball podcast. Can I cover the event from the table? It's not going to work like that, because I imagine I'll probably get turned away, or they'll say, do you have proof of that you're part of the media? And I don't have any proof. So the fact that I didn't get a green light of if I'm able to go just did not sit well with me. It really did not sit well with me, and it's disheartening. It's like frustrating and disheartening at the same time, just because I really want to be a big-time volleyball show / podcast. And the fact that I didn't get word back from the marketing director of Team USA just kind of hurts me. But it is what it is. I was told to email this marketing director of USA Volleyball, and sadly, I didn't get a word back. I didn't even get you can't attend the event as a member of the media. Like, at least just reply to me. Like, don't just not reply to me. Like, it's frustrating. I really, really feel frustrated that I didn't get a reply from their marketing director. But it's all good. It's just exhibition play. If it was an actual match, then I would have also like maybe emailed them again or just said something. But regardless, I think I wish I could have attended the event, just because I saw how full it was when it came to fans. Like, it's quite amazing that there were so many fans at this game or exhibition match. Unfortunately, it is sad that I couldn't get like the green light to cover this as a member of the media, but it is what it is. So overall, I missed out on a great opportunity to meet Karch Karai and the U.S. women's volleyball national team, but I mean, I'm not going to be able to see them again, because the next time they play in another exhibition match against Turkey is going to be on Tuesday at the former Rimac Arena, in UC San Diego. So, for those that didn't get a chance to see the U.S. women's national team as well as Turkey, you have another chance to see them on Tuesday, as I am recording this on Monday, August 29th. So that's pretty much that for the U.S. women's scrimmage exhibition matches against Turkey. Now we go to the other unfortunate event that happened this past weekend. And warning, this is a fair warning to everybody. This is a serious topic, and please look at the disclaimer that this is basically the opinions and thoughts of myself and not of anyone else or any third or second party organizations. But something unfortunate did happen over the weekend, and here's your chance for a possible exit from this little sensitive topic in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, with that being said, something unfortunate did happen in the NCAA women's volleyball world last weekend. So, this happened on Friday when Duke women's volleyball took on BYU in BYU's tournament. So, unfortunately, and this is really sad that this happened, we had a sad and unfortunate event that happened regarding a African-American women's volleyball player on Duke, as she basically was called a racial slur from one of the BYU fans. Now, the BYU fan was sitting in the student section, so at first everyone was like, oh my god, a BYU student called her this name. No. It was actually a fan who was sitting in the student section, and eventually BYU identified him and kicked him out, or banned him for life. Banned him. I don't know how long the ban is going to be, but I imagine it's going to be for life. He's no longer allowed to attend up-and-coming events. So, honestly, it really is sad that racism still lives in this world. And this was a touchy subject I didn't want to, talk about, but at the same time, I feel the need to address it. Racism has no place in any sport. And the fact that this happened in a great venue at BYU's facility, BYU's gymnasium, and in a great sport that is volleyball, is really, really frustrating. And it's saddening, to say the least, just because, well, when you're called something, it's one thing to be called something, but when it has to be something having to do with race, it really just is sad and heartbreaking. And I feel for the athlete that happened to be called this name. So that happened to be called a racial slur. And it really sucks just because no one deserves that. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. So I feel that there should be no form of racism at any point whatsoever. As I hate to say this, but the player identified as from the Duke women's volleyball team that was called the racial slur was Rachel Richardson of Duke women's volleyball, and it really is sad and frustrating. But the fact that she was able to overcome this, yes, she did receive. I did hear that she did receive consoling from her parents and from her family and all sorts of people comforting her is great and all, but I just hate that it came down to that, and I hate that she had to be targeted for the racial slur. And it wasn't just a racial slur. There was also a threat that was happening when it came to the BYU fan telling Rachel Richardson. And it's sad because he said, and I quote, "You better watch your back on your way to the bus." Now, that's just uncalled for. First of all, this person should be banned for life. If the ban is not for life, then BYU didn't really do the job. second of all, it's like, why would you even say that to a player? It's so sad that this world has come down to racism and whatnot. I get it, racism is never going to die, and it's very sad and frustrating, but it's like, honestly, no one deserves to be threatened. No one, not even my worst enemy, not even anyone's worst enemy deserves to be threatened. And the fact that we had this happen at a women's volleyball match is just unacceptable. It's heartbreaking as well, and I just feel bad for Rachel. I don't think she deserves this, and I feel she deserves. Well, obviously the whole thing was resolved, but it's like I'm hoping that this never happens again. And the fact that Rachel was able to handle this with class and dignity was quite nice. Now, BYU did eventually have a police officer stand by the Duke bench, because BYU didn't stop the game, or no one decided to identify the person that was shouting the racial slur as well as the threat. No one, unfortunately, identified the person, and no one, unfortunately, turned him in. It sucks, but I guess not being a snitch is something that people don't want to do. But I think, again, it could have been handled better, and I wish the match could have been stopped to have this person get kicked out and whatnot. So, either way, I hope everyone can learn a major lesson from this. Fans, if you are listening, please be better than this. I'm not trying to target anybody, but it's like no player, whether they play soccer, volleyball, basketball, football, tennis, baseball, the list goes on and on. No athlete in general should be targeted when it comes to racism or any sort of threat. It really is heartbreaking, and I didn't want to believe this at first, and then I read the whole statement, and I'm like, oh my gosh, have mercy on my soul. And it really just broke my heart. I was at work when I was actually filming Pop Warner, but then I saw the whole statement, and I'm like, oh my goodness, why? When is it going to end? When is it going to end? But I did like how Duke women's volleyball and Rachel Richardson was able to basically handle this with class and dignity instead of handling this in a negative situation. I'm just hoping people learn from this mistake, and I hope they're able to make sure that whoever is calling this person out or using racial slurs or threats deserves to be removed. And I don't care who it is, whether it's a student, whether it's a fan, whether it's anybody. No player should be threatened by anyone when playing the sport that they love. And it really sucks. So the BYU did release a statement, as their athletic director actually talked following the match or actually before the match against Washington State. But BYU did release a statement. They said, warning, religion alert, just got to throw that out of the way. So BYU's athletic statement said, all of God's children deserve love and respect. Because remember, BYU is basically a Christian school. And BYU Athletics is completely committed to leading out in abandoning attitudes and actions of prejudice and of any kind and rooting out racism. When a student, athlete, or fan comes to a BYU sporting event, we expect that they will be treated with love and respect and feel safe on our campus. It is for this reason BYU has banned a fan who was identified by Duke during last night's volleyball match from all... Let me say that again. Is for this reason BYU has banned a fan who was identified by Duke during last night's volleyball match from all BYU venues. I feel that was kind of worded incorrectly, but whatever. Although this fan was sitting in BYU student section, this person is not a BYU student. To say we are extremely disheartened in the actions of a small number of fans in last night's volleyball match in the Smith Fieldhouse between BYU and Duke is not strong enough language. We will not tolerate behavior of this kind. Specifically, the use of a racial slur at any of our athletic events is absolutely unacceptable, and BYU Athletics holds a zero-tolerance approach to this behavior. We wholeheartedly apologize to Duke University and especially its student-athletes competing last night for what they experienced. We want BYU athletic events to provide a safe environment for all, and there is no place for behaviors like this in our venues. So that was the statement BYU issued, and eventually, here's the crazy thing about this. So Duke had another match against Rider the following day, but instead of the match being played at BYU at the Smith Fieldhouse, per request, the Duke and Rider matchup was actually moved to a local high school outside of the BYU campus, and it was only held for authorized personnel as well as family. No other fan was able to attend. So that's just how, I know this was by request, but that's how far this whole thing went. And here was a statement from BYU women's volleyball coach Heather Olmstead. Racism in any form has no place at BYU or anywhere else. I apologize for what the Duke student athletes experienced during our match on Friday. We must do better. I have been able to have productive conversations with the student athlete who was impacted the most Friday night, Rachel Richardson, the Duke volleyball team captain and the Duke volleyball head coach. They have helped me understand areas where we can do better. I thank them for taking the time to speak with me. I want the very best for them and the entire Duke team. So that was Heather Olmstead, the statement from Heather Olmstead. And then Tom Holmoe said, Tom Holmoe is the athletic director of BYU. He says, I stand with my coach in this difficult situation as we continue to move forward. I'm glad she was able to speak with Rachel. I want to clarify that I was the one who made the decision to represent BYU at the meeting with Rachel Saturday morning. So here was another thing that needed to be identified. So everyone and their moms was flipping out that the head coach, Heather Olmstead, was not at the event, was not meeting with Rachel Richardson about the incident that happened on Friday. So Tom Holmoe, the BYU athletic director, basically met with Rachel and I guess other Duke authorized media personnel or any of the coaching staff and basically talked with her. So he didn't mention that Heather wasn't representing. It was Tom that was representing. So everyone was just flipping out and they were like, oh my God, why wasn't Heather involved in the meeting? What happened? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, Tom was not clear with his statement, clearly. So I wish he could have been a little bit clearer to begin with his statement, but I guess maybe he just didn't have enough statements or words or whatnot, or maybe that slipped through the cracks. But I was glad he clarified just so the coach wasn't ducking out. But I understand what the coach goes through. The coach has a million things on his or her dish, and they had another match against Washington State that night. So it's really tough to have to deal with this incident, then you have to watch film, have to deal with your team, have to deal with your family. The list goes on and 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 on. So I think people kind of need to ease up on the coach because it's not the coach's fault. I mean, yes, they could have stopped the match and kicked the fan out at that time, but I feel it's not all the coach's fault. It's not on the coach entirely. I mean, the entire BYU, what's the word? The athletics venue or security should have done something. But regardless, it's just sad that this whole thing needed to happen. And I really hope fans just don't use any form of racism or derogatory language, because I really want to see no form of racism at a match. And it's just sad. Davidson Crooks in the chat room kind of agrees with me, and he says they should have. BYU protect their own. And yeah, they should have. If they were that, adamant about kicking the fan out, they should have identified this fan and said, you're gone. Identified the fan at the game instead of just waiting till the day after. So I just hope we never, ever have this whole thing again. I understand that BYU wasn't able to identify the fan at the moment, but thankfully there was technology involved, and they were able to see the fan that was using the threats and the slurs. And I hope this fan does get help. I hope this fan never comes back to any sort of sporting event and uses racial slurs or threats like that ever again. It really is sad that this happened, and I know this is a touchy subject. I never really like to talk about things like this, but I feel it needed to be said. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it just because I didn't really tweet anything out. I didn't want to trigger anybody, but for me, this was unacceptable, and I hope that we root out racism, and I hope that the sport of volleyball never, ever, ever has to deal with anything like this ever again. So that is that for the unfortunate event number 2 that happened this past weekend. Let's take ourselves a quick little break. Let's give ourselves the time to cool off and get ourselves a little time to heal. When we come back, I'll be recapping week 1 of the NCAA women's volleyball week, as we had quite a bit of upsets, and we also have a preview of week number 2, as we have a lot of matches for this upcoming week. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to segment number 2 of Set Point. I hope you all are having a great rest of the day, and also definitely do check out our show, Chi-Town Weekly, which primarily goes on every week. Unfortunately, we didn't have it this week, but I can tell you there is going to be one next week on Labor Day. It's going to be a big show. I'm going to be a part of it, as Adam Karnick is going to be hosting a Week 0 NFL special. I imagine that's going to be on at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then definitely check out the Show That Never Sleeps with Harrison Glazer and Pierre Moss, as well as Reppin' to NorCal Sports with Gina G. Without any further delay, let's get on into segment number 2. We definitely have a lot of NCAA women's volleyball matches to go over. I'm only going to recap the upsets as we have a lot of matches to preview for week 2. So we'll start off with the first upset, San Diego versus Pittsburgh, or Pitt. Number 25 San Diego versus number 6 Pitt. This took place at Texas A&M. Correction alert, last week I said that the Pitt versus San Diego matchup was going to be in Hawaii, as well as Texas A&M and Hawaii playing Pitt and San Diego. I thought that was going to be in Hawaii, but instead it actually was played at the Reed Arena in Texas A&M. So just need to clarify that was my mistake. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make that mistake. But over to the San Diego Pitt matchup. So this was quite the interesting matchup, as Pitt and San Diego were two sides of the different coin. As for the first set, this was quite the interesting first set. So Pitt led 12-8, only to see San Diego go on a 5-0 run to go up 13-12. Pitt eventually found itself up 21-7 as well as 22-19. And it looked as if they were going to win the set. Everyone was probably thinking, okay, Pitt is looking like their dominant self. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for San Diego, the Toreros went on a 5-0 run, and despite needing 2 set points, they were able to clinch the first set 25-23, as they were able to complete quite the amazing comeback. I wouldn't say it was a comeback, but it was an impressive comeback nonetheless, as Grace Froling had the set clinching kill. So the second set was kind of a different story. Pitt basically dominated the second set. They weren't in any danger. There was only one tie. Basically, it was 1-1, as Pitt took the second set 25-13, as that knotted the matchup at 1-1. Third set, there were no lead changes, as San Diego led most of the way. It was tied at 6-6, but San Diego used a 6-0 run to give themselves the lead for good, as they took the third set 25-17, as they led by as many as 10, winning that strong set. And this really changed my dynamic of San Diego. I said San Diego needed to prove themselves. I wasn't sold that they were a top 25 team, but this team actually looks legit, and I'm about to tell you why following this match. So the fourth set, it was very tight, as both teams were neck and neck. San Diego actually went up 22-18, and it looked as if the match was pretty much in their grasp, as they were just playing lights out after a very tight set. But then credit to Pitt, they came back with 4 straight points to take the lead at 23-22. Despite needing 3 set points, they eventually won the set by a kill from Valeria Vasquez Gomez, as they won the fourth set 26-24. And just like that, Pitt was still alive as they forced a fifth set. But in the fifth set, it was all San Diego. They wound up winning the first 4 points of the set, and they were in no danger whatsoever. Pitt basically had no answer for the Toreros, as the Toreros only had 1 hitting error, and I feel Pitt kind of was gassed. I know it's the first match of the season, but overall, San Diego just looked more sharp, as the Toreros took the fifth set 15-8, completing the upset. As looking at the stats, Grace Froling was just on a whole nother level. She had 19 kills, only 1 hitting error for a hitting percentage of .514. Brianna Edwards, who was a transfer, I want to say she transferred from Indiana, I want to say. Yes, Brianna Edwards did transfer from Indiana. She's a grad transfer. She had 16 kills. Katie Lukes, who is using her 5th year, she had 11 kills, and then Leela Blackwell chipped in 5 kills as well. As a team, San Diego hit .241, and they did pretty well in a good chunk of the departments. They did get outdigged, they did get out-aced, and they did have more serving errors than Pitt did, but it did pretty much everything nicely, as Grace Froling just had herself quite the amazing game. One thing that San Diego did do correctly was they outblocked Pitt. I wouldn't say they did correctly, but they just did quite well. They outblocked them as a team 10-8. As for Pitt, they were led by Valeria Vazquez-Gomez, who had 16 kills. Juliana Dalton, who transferred from Washington State, added 15 kills. Courtney Bazzario, who transferred from Iowa, chipped in 12 kills. And then Serena Gray, who transferred from Penn State, added 9 kills. Pitt used a 6-2 offense as Rachel Fairbanks chipped in 30 assists as well as 12 kills, or 12 digs and 4 kills, and Cam Ennis added 17 assists. Ashley Broski chipped in 18 digs as a team. Pitt only hit 202. They even hit negative 71 in that third set where everything just went awry for them. So the post Kayla Lund era kind of got off to a shaky start for the Panthers, but there is still promise within them. They did win their next 2 matches against Texas A&M and Hawaii. The same actually can be said for San Diego, as both teams actually swept the Aggies as well as the Rainbow Wahine. And then I guess it's worth noting that Texas A&M outlasted Hawaii in 5 sets, but we're not talking about Texas A&M and Hawaii. We're talking about Pitt and San Diego. As San Diego, I'm just going to say this as Davidson asked, did they play at Pitt? No, they played at Texas A&M. As this was basically like a tournament. It was basically the Aggie Classic, I think it was called, as Texas A&M was the host team. Last week, I will own up to the mistake. I thought the whole tournament was at Hawaii, but it was played at Texas A&M. The whole tournament was played at Texas A&M. It wasn't played at Pitt. It wasn't played at San Diego. It wasn't played at Hawaii. It was played at Texas A&M at Reed Gymnasium. I should also mention for San Diego, they were paced by Gabby Blossom, who is a transfer from Penn State. She had 53 assists as well as 7 digs. So I really think San Diego is utilizing their transfers quite well with Brianna Evans, Leela Blackwell, and Gabby Blossom. Coupling that with Katie Lukes and Grace Froling, San Diego looks like a much better team than I gave them credit for. And I will own up to this. The Toreros look legit. I thought that San Diego was going to be at best second place in the West Coast Conference. I think they could possibly challenge BYU for the crown. I'm not trying to put them on a pedestal, but they look solid early on because BYU always has a good team. And for San Diego to pull off that big of an upset against a team that made the Final Four is quite astounding. Yes, San Diego has had bigger upsets. They've beaten number 1 teams in the past, such as USC, but I think this win is a great step in the correct direction. Jumping over to the great state of Utah, speaking of which, we had another upset. We had number 12 UCLA taking on Utah State. So this was actually predicted from Daniel Gilman of 6 Rotations. He actually predicted UCLA was going to lose in the first weekend, and I give him credit. He actually got it right. As for this Utah State matchup, so the first set, UCLA led 6-3, but they gave up a 6-0 run, and Utah State held a 13-10 lead at one point. And they maintained the lead for the most part until UCLA went up 20-19. UCLA went up 24-22, and it looked as if they were going to win the set, but then the Aggies went on a 5-1 run as they dodged 3 set points from UCLA, taking the first set 27-25. Keep in mind that the post-Mac May era and post-Shelby Martin era has begun, so UCLA is going to need to find that new it girl on the outside. So this was kind of a work in progress for UCLA. For the second set, Utah State led 11-8, only to see UCLA go on a 6-1 run to go up 14-12. The Aggies responded with a 4-0 run of themselves before UCLA responded with a run of their own. UCLA led 24-22, and just like the first set, I was thinking, okay, UCLA can't possibly botch this one up. They found a way to botch it up. They allowed Utah State to tie it up at 24-24, And despite needing 5 set points, Utah State won the second set 29-27. And I'm just looking at this, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is UCLA doing? Now, UCLA, in my opinion, is not bad. I don't think they're bad at all. I just think that they've now entered the no more Mac May portion of their team. And honestly, I think it really affected them. But they can't use that as an excuse forever. Now, as for set 3, UCLA needed to stay alive. They were not going to get swept on the road, as UCLA led early and often, as the only lead for Utah State was 1-0 and 2-1. UCLA established a lead for the most part, although Utah State did tie it up at 13-13 and 14-14. UCLA kept them away from gaining the lead, as UCLA took the third set 25-22. Then in the fourth set, it was tight for the most part. Both teams trying to feel each other out, trying to get that big traction, as UCLA actually led 11-8, but Utah State was not going away without a fight. They eventually tied the set up at 16-16, and then the Aggies went on a 4-0 run to put them up 20-16, and eventually they were able to clinch the match from a kill from Kylie Stokes. And how about that? As the the radio broadcast announcer from Utah State said, put some respect on Utah State's name. As Utah State upset number 12 UCLA in 4 sets at Utah State at the Kirby Court at Wayne Estates Center. Utah State was led by Kylie Stokes, who had the match-clinching kill. She had 14 kills, which was quite nice. And then they also got 11 kills from Tatum Stahl and 10 kills from Kennedy Boyd, as well as 9 kills from Emily Turner. They got 13 digs from Jordan Holdaway, as well as 11 kills from Stahl, and 13 digs from Jordy Holdaway, 11 digs from Tatum Stahl, and 10 digs from Leah Wilton-LeBoy. Strangely enough, Utah State only hit 184, but they did have 14 blocks, and they outdug UCLA 54-48. And despite getting outdone in the serving department, Utah State really was quite impressive. They really impressed, and their 6-2 offense ran with 2 setters was very effective, as Leah Wilton-LeBoy chipped in 25 assists while Beatrice Rodriguez chipped in 21. As for UCLA, they were led by Anna Dodson, who had 12 kills, while Iman Njai had 10 kills. Elon McCall chipped in 9 kills, while as a team, UCLA hit a whopping 76 on the night. Now, here's the big stat that I am actually astounded by. So before I get to that big stat that I'm astounded by, UCLA had 5 service aces, 3 of which came from Peyton Duke, while 2 of them came from Elon McCall. And they only missed 6 serves as a whole, which was quite impressive. Katie McCarthy chipped in 11 digs, while Elon McCall added 10 digs, and then the libero Mackenzie Cole chipped in 6 digs. Pacing the offense was Maddie McKissock, who transferred from Georgia Tech, as she had 38 assists. Now here's the big stat that really blew me away. UCLA had a whopping 20 blocks as a team, which is actually the most, I want to say that is the most that UCLA has had as a team. I want to say that's actually a team record, or the most blocks they've ever had as a team, which you had 20 blocks as a team. Yeah, it's most in a single match since 2018. So it wasn't the most that they've had in its program's history. It's the most they've had since 2018. But still, you had 20 blocks, and you failed to win. I get it. Utah State, playing at Utah State is challenging. I get it. Utah State does have some studs. I get it. UCLA doesn't have Mac May anymore. I get it. UCLA doesn't have Shelby Martin as their setter anymore. But still, it's like, this is UCLA. They have some good players on that team. I did not think they were going to lose. But I have to give a hats off to Daniel Gilman, who predicted the upset quite nicely. Now, I don't know if he predicted Utah State upsetting UCLA or if he was predicting Cal Poly to upset UCLA, but he predicted that UCLA was going to get upset, so hats off to Gilman on that. And I can't really give you an in-depth recap of this matchup and the rest of the upsets going forward, but Marquette upsetting Kentucky was very impressive. Marquette took the first two sets 25-21 and 25-22. I was strongly, blown away by this. I'm like, whoa, Marquette. I know Marquette is good, but they're not on the level of Creighton. However, Kentucky was not going to get swept on their home floor, as they took the next three sets 25-18 and 25-16. However, Marquette found its rhythm, or refound its rhythm in the fifth set as they won it 15-12, as Marquette really impressed me. Keep in mind, Kentucky was the number 11 team in the nation. I don't think this win was as big as San Diego's win over Pitt, but I think this was very impressive winning at Kentucky. When you're winning at Kentucky as an unranked team, your team is actually legit. And I feel Marquette can put the Big East Conference on notice. The Big East has been mainly ran by Creighton, as Creighton, it was the only Big East team ranked. But now I think Marquette is going to put everyone else on notice in that conference. Marquette was led by Aubrey Hamilton, who transferred from Notre Dame, as she led the way with 18 kills. She hit 300. Ella Foti chipped in 12 kills, while Carson Murray and Jenna Reitzma each had 9 kills. Carly Skrabak had 26 digs, while I'm going to probably butcher this girl's name. Yadhira Anchante added 14 digs, as Anchante added 38 assists as well as 5 kills to boot. As a team, Marquette hit 288, which I thought was quite impressive, and despite only having 5 blocks on the night, they were quite effective as they dug the ball 69 times. Yes, they actually dug the ball 69 times. I'm not just using that number as a number that popped out of my head. They actually dug the ball 69 times. As for Kentucky, they were led by Adana Rollins, transfer from Minnesota, who had 28 kills. She hit 473. She also had 11 digs. I'm surprised with those numbers Kentucky lost, but what really doomed Kentucky was not being prepared in that first and second set. I would say they weren't prepared, but I just feel they got off to such a slow start, and it's like, you can't give a good team like Marquette the first 2 sets. Otherwise, you're basically going to be in for it. So I really thought that was uncharacteristic for Kentucky to basically get off to a bad start. And I'm hoping for Kentucky State this isn't a sign of things to come, because if they play like this against some of the other teams in the SEC, they're not winning that conference. The SEC is kind of up for grabs between Kentucky and a few other teams. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, though. Aaron Lamb also chipped in 18 kills for Kentucky, and Reagan Rutherford and Elise Goetzinger added 9 and 8 kills respectively. Kentucky, another astounding stat, they hit 296. Normally when you hit 296, you win the match, but instead, Kentucky hit 296 and they lost. Emma Grome chipped in 54 assists as well as 12 digs. Eleanor Bevan led the way with 13 digs, while Rutherford and, like I said, Adana Rollins added 11 digs. Raya Walker also added 9 digs as well, as Kentucky actually outblocked Marquette 8-5. And here's another astounding stat. Marquette didn't even have a service ace. Really, Kentucky? And Kentucky had 9 service aces, but I guess they just could not stop Aubrey Hamilton and Ella Foti. I'm sorry, but it's like, how is Kentucky supposed to win when they only have 4 players getting kills? Maybe that's kind of the strategy of Coach Skinner, but I don't know. Now this matchup, this upset, I kind of predicted. I wouldn't say I predicted this upset, but I predicted this to actually be a noteworthy match. I had this in the sneaky good matchup category. This was Washington at Arkansas. The two teams actually played each other twice over the weekend, as this was the first matchup. The first set went to Arkansas quite convincingly, as they won it 25-18. Washington won the second set 25-20. Arkansas won the third set 25-20, and Arkansas was just getting closer and closer to that upset. Washington wasn't going away, but eventually Arkansas put away Washington, winning 25-22, completing the upset over number 8 Washington, as this was played in the Barnhill Arena in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Arkansas was led by Taylor Head, who had 16 kills, while Maggie Cartwright and Jillian Gillen each added 14 kills. Haley, I'm really gonna mispronounce her name, and I apologize. Haley DeRegal added 9 kills. As a team, Arkansas hit 352. You can't allow a team to hit 352, Washington. It's not going to work like that. It's not. What's even worse is that Arkansas outblocked Washington. Get this, everybody, guys, listen. Arkansas outblocked Washington 12-6. Yeah, you are not winning sets. You are not going to win a match if you get outblocked and out-hit by quite a bit. And then Washington also got out-aced 7-4, though they did have fewer service errors than Arkansas, but still. And then also Arkansas ran a 6-2 offense, as Hannah Hogue and Gracie Ryan had 31 and 23 assists respectively. Gracie Ryan is one of the returning starters from last year's Arkansas team, which won 20 matches. But to see a 6-2 offense is a big oh my. As for Washington, they were led by Maddie Ensley, who had 11 kills. This is basically the start of the post-Kara Bejima era. But Washington has some good offensive talent, as Maren Grote, Claire Hoffman, and Imani Bush each had 10 kills. So they had 4 players in double digits in kills, which is quite nice. So the fact that the kill leader was very divided and split means that Washington has no problem moving on from Kara Bejima. And then Sophie Summers added 8 kills as well, with no hitting errors. Pacing Washington's offense was Ella Mae Powell, who had 6 kills, as well as 41 assists and 17 digs. She actually led Washington in that category, while Shannon Crenshaw had 10 digs, as well as Lauren Bays. As a team, Washington hit 245, which isn't bad, but if you want to win, you got to hit in those higher 200s. If you aren't hitting in the high 200s, then you're not doing offense correctly. That, or you're getting blocked quite a bit at the net, which was the case for Arkansas. The good news for Washington was that Washington bounced back in the second matchup. They won that one in 4 sets, but I don't know. This is why I did not pick Washington to win the Pac-12. I get it, it's early, but I still think Stanford, based on their returning experience, is just going to look good. And Stanford looked really good in their season opener, although they played some very shoddy opponents. I think one of their opponents was Tennessee State. And then this week, Stanford's got a big test. But I am confident that Stanford can win the Pac-12. Book it, y'all. And I will own up to it if I am wrong. Continuing on with the upsets, this was the last upset of the weekend, and this actually happened on Saturday. This was number 3 Wisconsin taking on number 16 Baylor. Either way, it was Baylor moving on from the post-Avery Skinner / Yassiana Presley era. But this matchup, and I should also mention Baylor was coming off of a 4-set loss to Minnesota. But this matchup really opened my eyes about Baylor, as they wound up winning in 5 sets. Wisconsin won the first 25-21. I was thinking, okay, well, Wisconsin's going to cruise their way to victory. But Baylor won the second set 25-22. They narrowly won the third set 26-24. Wisconsin won the fourth set 25-21. And then Baylor just had all the momentum in that fifth set for the most part as they won the fifth set 15-11. There was an error on this saying that Baylor had 16 points. But in reality, Baylor had 15 points. Get it right, y'all. This was actually played at TCU at the Ed and Ray Schollmaler Arena. This was the Big 12, Big 10 crossover as TCU and Baylor got to take on Minnesota and Wisconsin over the weekend, which was nice and all. Baylor was led by Lauren Harrison, who is basically going to be their new it girl now that Yassiana Presley and Avery Skinner have graduated, as Lauren Harrison led the way with 18 kills. Riley Simpson really came alive, as I didn't even know what a Riley Simpson was. And then she just was pounding kill after kill, and she had 16 kills, which was very nice. Mallory Talbert, who transferred from Texas A&M, as well as Cara McGee, each had 9 kills in the middle. As a team, Baylor hit 230, which isn't great, but looking at their stats, they really excelled well in blocking the ball, as they had 14 blocks compared to Wisconsin's 12. And then also they barely outdug Wisconsin 52-49. And then Avery Carlson added 39 assists. I don't know if Baylor was running 6-2 offense. I don't think they were, as Lauren Briseno added 9 assists as well as 9 digs. Sophie Keene led the way with 10 digs defensively for Baylor. So honestly, it was quite impressive that Baylor was able to beat the reigning national champion, mind you. I get it, Wisconsin is moved on. I wouldn't say they had a tough time in the post-Dana Retke era, but I still think that Wisconsin has loads of talent. Leading the way for Wisconsin was Sarah Franklin, who transferred from Michigan State, as she had 22 kills, only 3 hitting errors for a hitting percentage of .388. Julia Orzel, one of Wisconsin's returnees, added 13 kills. Devin Robinson, another Wisconsin returnee, added 9 kills. Anna Smrek was kind of the oh my goodness player, as she had 7 kills, but she had 12 hitting errors, which was nearly half of the Wisconsin team, and she hit negative .185, which is like, ugh, you're not going to win matches when you're doing that. Sarah Franklin led the way with 10 digs in that category, while MJ Hamill added 9 digs, Izzy Ashburn added 8 digs, and then Grace, I'm going to mispronounce this girl's name, Gulsi Goose Tekken added 9 digs as well. As a team, Wisconsin hit 232, which is kind of not really better than Baylor's 230. And like I said, Wisconsin got out-blocked 14-12. And Wisconsin also missed 20 serves compared to Baylor's 15. I know they're an aggressive serving team, but you can't have too many of those serving errors, especially against a team like Baylor. I think Baylor was underestimated. I think Baylor might have a little bit more upside to their team despite not having Yassiana Presley and Avery Skinner. I think Cara McGee and Mallory Talbert are a great middle blocker duo, and I also think that Lauren Harrison can take the reins from Yassiana Presley. And then Riley Simpson was also impressive as well. I really thought she was great in her... do I want to say her debut? She was great in this matchup. I'm just going to say that. She was even getting she was even getting Riley Simpson chants from the crowd. So there was that right there. Those are all the upsets that there were from this past weekend. Now we got to go to the AVCA Top 25. So there was quite a number of... Oh, I forgot to mention that Kansas also beat Utah, but I don't really think of that as an upset. I just think of that as 2 really good teams faced one another, and then at the end of the day, Utah just unfortunately could not come out on top. They're suffering. They kind of I wouldn't say they suffered, but they kind of had a little bit of the post-Danny Drews era blues, but it's still early in the season. So as for the AVCA Division I Women's Volleyball Coaches Poll for this week coming out today, 25 through 21 consisted of USC at 25, Marquette, who entered the top 25 this week, at 24, UCLA at 23, Western Kentucky at 22, and Penn State at 21. 20 through 16 consisted of Kansas at 20, Illinois at 19, Oregon at 18, Creighton at 17, and Kentucky at 16. 15 through 11 consists of San Diego at 15, Washington at 14, Florida at 13, Stanford at 12, and Purdue at 11. 10 through 6 consists of Pitt at 10, Baylor at 9, Ohio State at 8, BYU at 7, and Wisconsin at 6. 5 through 1 consists of Georgia Tech at 5, Minnesota at 4, Louisville at 3, Nebraska, the previous number 1 team, at 2, and your new number 1 team in the AVCA Division I Women's Volleyball Coaches Poll is Texas. So you're probably wondering why Texas is number 1. Texas beat Ohio State twice. Well, then number 7 Ohio State twice. As Texas beat the Buckeyes, they beat the Buckeyes first time in 3 sets, and then they beat the Buckeyes in 4 sets in the second match, which both of the matches were at the Covelli Center in Columbus, Ohio. So I really thought those were impressive victories. Now, Nebraska did not lose at any point last weekend, but their opponents weren't really, how you say, the most noteworthy opponents. They beat Tulsa, and they also beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi. The latter team made the NCAA tournament, and then they also beat Pepperdine, which also made the NCAA tournament. I want to say the Pepperdine win was good, but they could have been a little bit more convincing. But it just goes to show that Pepperdine is a legit team, and you might need to buy some stock on them. More on that later, but Nebraska didn't have any bad losses. It's just that their wins weren't really as eye-opening as Texas's were. And then Louisville obviously went on. They swept all of their opponents. I forget who was the first opponent that they swept, but they beat UMKC, and they also beat Missouri. Either way, they went 3-0 this past weekend. And then Minnesota went 2-0, defeating Baylor and TCU. And then Georgia Tech, rounding off the top 5, they beat Illinois and Ole Miss. That's not surprising. I also should get into some stat stuffers. So, this past weekend, yesterday, on Sunday, Pitt's, I'm blanking on her name, Grace, no, not Grace Chillingworth, I'm blanking on the name. She's the setter for Pitt. How am I blanking on her name? Rachel Fairbanks. Rachel Fairbanks recorded Pitt's first triple-double with 10 kills, 10 digs, and 12 assists in Pitt's win over Texas A&M yesterday. This is being recorded on Monday, August 29th, and the match took place on Sunday, August 28th. But Rachel Fairbanks recorded Pitt's first triple-double since 2016, and it's very impressive that she was able to post that, and it's really amazing that if anyone could get a triple-double, you're getting a shout-out on the show. I do not care who you are. The fact that we had a player, man or woman, record a triple-double is very amazing. So, congratulations to Rachel Fairbanks for posting that triple-double for Pitt. Going over to Georgia Tech, we had probably the biggest stat stuffer in the world, as we had Julia Bergman, who I think is making her case for AVCA Player of the Year. She, on Friday, had probably the biggest night of her life, as she, in the win over Illinois, or Ole Miss. Was it Ole Miss? Either way, she had 33 kills, which was absolutely amazing, and it's like, My goodness. Yeah, she had 33 kills, which was a career high, and I want to say it was like the 9th most kills in a single match for Georgia Tech. Yes, and she also recorded 1,200 kills and counting. So it's very astounding that she was able to just post those numbers. Those are Madden numbers right there. 33 kills, my goodness, and it only went 4 sets. Yes, and Mike Pat thinks he's so funny as he joins the chat room. He says, snuck in just in time. He says 33 kills sounds like a Call of Duty match. Oh, yeah, very funny, Mike. Very funny, Mike. So, those 33 kills are the 5th most in a single match in program history, as she's only the 7th player to accomplish that feat. So, it's really amazing, and the fact that she also registered over 1,200 kills throughout her college volleyball career in her only 4 years is quite astounding as well. So I really think it's quite impressive that Julia Bergman is she just had herself a game, and she could possibly be the player of the year. But it's too early to tell. I'm hoping she just continues to have big night after big night. So I think it's going to be quite scary to see what she could do come ACC play, as well as the rest of the way going forward. So those are my stat stuffers right there. Sorry if I kind of fumbled it along the way, but what can you do? So now we're actually going to have ourselves a little bit of a segment called Buy Stock. So buy stock from certain teams. So there are certain teams that deserve to have stock bought from after this weekend. So we'll start with the unranked Power 5 conferences, or unranked Power 5 conference teams. So number 5, I have Michigan as a team you should buy stock from. They are technically receiving votes, but you also have to remember that they are not currently ranked in the top 25. So I don't want to hear this whole, well, they're receiving votes. What are you talking about, Teran? They're not in the top 25. Deal with it. So Michigan went 3-0, albeit their opponents weren't as the most challenging group of players. But I will say this, Michigan does have quite a bit of talent, such as May Pertovsky. I really think Michigan can make some noise in the Big Ten. They have a decent and favorable schedule. I just think that it might take them a little while to get really good in the Big Ten. But I think if they register a good chunk of wins going into the conference, it builds up their confidence going into Big Ten conference play. Number 4 team that I think you all should buy stock from in terms of a Power 5 conference in NCAA women's volleyball is Miami. Miami also went 3-0 this weekend, as to me, this is the team that made the round of 32 last season. I think that Miami kind of got snubbed when it came to not making the top 25 in the preseason. Now, Miami's opponents weren't screaming, oh my god, that is a team that should have Miami in the top 25. But I think Miami is going to get there eventually, and they're going to make some noise in the ACC. I think that Miami is a talented team, and I think they can knock down that door. I think they're going to have at least one top 25 win. Jumping over to number 3, I have Arkansas. Now, Arkansas returns its 2 pin hitters, one of its middle blockers, its starting setter, and its starting libero from last season. There is no reason why Arkansas should be missing the NCAA tournament this year. I think Arkansas can really make a big push to winning the SEC. Do I think they could take down Kentucky? That still remains to be seen, especially after week 1. But this win over Washington really opened my eyes, and I really was not surprised to see Arkansas giving Washington fits. Just because, like I said, both of the pin hitters, Taylor Head as well as the other girl, Jillian Gillen, they both had more than 400 kills last season for the Razorback. So I really think Arkansas can really make a good push for the SEC title, if not a spot in the NCAA tournament. My number 2 team that you should buy stock from when it comes to Power 5 conference teams unranked is Florida State. Now, Florida State did lose to Cincinnati, but you got to look at that match a little closely. They got off to a sluggish start in set 1. They only lost the set by 2 points. They were neck and neck in that second set, but unfortunately they lost that one by 2 points. And then in the third set, Florida State just steamrolled Cincinnati 25-9. And then the fourth set, it was neck and neck throughout most of the fourth set, but then Cincinnati was able to take it by 2 points, 25-23. So for Florida State, I don't think it was a bad weekend overall. And they also beat Dayton. Now Dayton is a really good, I wouldn't say really good team. They're a good team within their conference, and they were also receiving votes. I think that win really opened my eyes. Although they did struggle with Illinois State, but same can be said for Cincinnati as well. I really think that Florida State can turn some heads this year, and you got to buy stock on Florida State. Do I expect them to beat Louisville, Pitt, or Georgia Tech? I don't know, but I think they could make the match interesting. And who knows, maybe they could. I'm certain they'll get back to the NCAA tournament. And who knows, maybe they'll go deeper than the round of 32. Because their coach said it best. This is probably the deepest amount of talent they had in quite a while. So I really am buying into that Florida State hype. And then my number 1 team you all should buy stock from in terms of unranked Power 5 teams is Mississippi State. This team obviously had themselves quite the historical season. They won, I think they only lost twice all season, as one of their losses came from Kentucky and the other one came from the NCAA tournament. I really think Mississippi State has the chance to do big things in the SEC as well as make the NCAA tournament. Keep in mind that they do play in a very tough conference in the SEC, but I think Mississippi State is for real. I really think they have the foundation to basically, go deep into the NCAA tournament and win that first NCAA tournament match since the 1990s. I really think that Mississippi State is for real. I'm buying into that Mississippi State hype. They just have to basically prove it to me, and eventually get that big win from the SEC. They're eventually going to play Kentucky, and I really hope that they're able to topple the Wildcats, or at least give them a challenge. I really think, and this is what one of the Kentucky beat writers said, the SEC in the top half is going to be a dogfight between Kentucky, Florida, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and even Tennessee and South Carolina are good teams, as well as Ole Miss. See, Tennessee kind of gets a bad rap just because they lost quite a bit of talent to graduation, but they still have Natalie Hayward returning, and she was a force at the net for the Lady Vols. So I really think Mississippi State is for real, and I think that SEC conference, at least the first half, is going to be very interesting. The top half of the conference. I'm not trying to say the bottom half isn't going to post anything big, but I just think the top half is going to basically be a barn burner. So that is that for my top five unranked Power 5 conference teams that you should buy stock on. Jumping to the non-Power 5 conference unranked teams that you should buy stock on. Number 5, I have Colorado State. Now, Colorado State, to me, I didn't know this team had so much talent returning. They have Kennedy Stanford, who returns. She had 348 kills. Annie Sullivan had 296 kills. She returns. Karina Lieber returns as she had 250 kills. And Jackie Van Liefde returns as she had 238 kills. Colorado State also returns their starting setter, Sierra Pritchard, who was second in the team in digs last season. So I really think Colorado State can do damage. And they play in the MPS, or the Mountain West Conference. I said MPSF. Now, the Mountain West Conference. I think that conference can be theirs. The only team that I think that kind of poses a threat to them is Boise State. But I think Colorado State looks legit. And Colorado State used to be the OG team that dominated throughout the conference. And then they kind of had a shift in power when UNLV kind of won the conference in the COVID season, or the COVID-shortened season. And then the year after, we had Boise State winning. And then this year, I think Colorado State can get back on top of the Mountain West Conference. My number 4 team from my non-Power 5 conference unranked teams that you should buy stock on is Pepperdine. I hate to say this, but I think Pepperdine looks legit. Now, I'm not saying that because I saw them in a scrimmage. I'm saying that because you look at all the talent they have. They have Rachel Ahrens, Meg Brown. I'm blanking on the setter. Her it's something Zayala. We just call her Isa Zayala, and then they also have Emma Ammerman on the right side. Their only big question mark is going to be their libero, but I think Trinity Stanger has the potential to be the libero for Pepperdine. Either way, Pepperdine does return so much talent from last year's team. I really think that they're not going to be a team anyone wants to play, especially with Rachel Ahrens returning. Like, that team is going to be legit. So overall, I think that Pepperdine they're eventually going to figure it out. And then Grace Chillingworth is also a sneaky good hitter for the Waves as well, as I really think that Pepperdine is going to do great guns for the West Coast Conference this season. Do I expect them to, beat BYU? That remains to be seen, especially after how Nebraska I wouldn't say they thumped him. Nebraska almost lost the first set, but because Nebraska is just so darn talented, they were able to win that first set in extra points, and then that, I think, was kind of the momentum shift. Though Pepperdine did outblock Nebraska 12-10, which I thought was impressive. And then also Riley Patterson. It looks like Riley Patterson's going to be the libero, and I think she's the perfect fit. She has a great jump serve. So I really think that Riley Patterson is kind of the go-to libero girl for Pepperdine, but still remains to be seen. Maybe Scott Wong rotates Stenger and Patterson, but I think that Patterson is the one for libero. My number 3 team, in terms of my non-Power 5 conference unranked teams that you should buy stock on, is Long Beach State. I hate to sound like a homer, but Long Beach State had such a freaking great weekend. They won their first match of the Tyler Hildebrand era in a dramatic 5 sets against Oregon State. Now, I get it, Oregon State wasn't really the best team, but Oregon State is a physical big team. And then in addition, Long Beach State also beat Portland State, which was the host team of the Portland State tournament. Now, my big eye-opener of the weekend was Long Beach State nearly beating Oregon. Most people did not have Long Beach State taking a set off of Oregon. I, on the other hand, knew that Long Beach State was going to take a set off of Oregon and then some, because this was Oregon's first match. Long Beach State had 2 matches under their belt. You all get what I'm trying to say? I knew Oregon was going to be a little rusty. Unfortunately for Long Beach State, they fell just short of beating Oregon. They lost in 5 sets, with the 5th set being 18-16. Long Beach State did have 4 match points, and when it was 14-13, one of Long Beach State's top hitters had a big attempt, but unfortunately it was 6 inches out of bounds, and it was just the most unfortunate, heartbreaking thing for Long Beach State fans. But I really think that this Long Beach State team has a lot of upside to them. Morgan Chacon was phenomenal. She went toe-to-toe with Brooke Neneviller, as, remember, Morgan Chacon was a former standout at Florida State, and she had All-American status. Katie Kennedy returns for Long Beach State. She played right opposite and left side. I really think that she is another bright spot for Long Beach State. Callie Schwarzenbach obviously did great. And then Zaina Meyer, who hadn't played an official NCAA women's volleyball match until this weekend, was also phenomenal. You got to remember that she redshirted her entire freshman season at BYU before transferring. So for Zaina Meyer to run the offense so swimmingly, I really thought is quite impressive for Long Beach State. And I can't wait to see Long Beach State this weekend as they play Notre Dame. They also play Boise State on Thursday, but I kind of have to go to the one against Notre Dame. One, because I'm only free on Saturday and not on Thursday, and two, it's Power 5 school versus non-Power 5 school. More on that later. Number 2, in terms of non-ranked Power 5 teams, non-ranked Power 5 conference teams you should buy stock on is Dayton. Dayton, in my opinion, I think is so underwhelmingly underrated that it's not even funny. I think Dayton they get a bad rap just because of the conference they play in. I think Dayton doesn't get the respect that they deserve, but for me, I think Dayton is that perennial team that just makes the NCAA tournament year in and year out. And I think this year's not going to be any exception. I think Dayton makes the NCAA tournament, and they always have those really talented hitters. And Ohio State's not the only good team from Ohio. Dayton, I think, can make noise as well. And for me, it's Dayton's conference to lose. I'd be shocked to see if Dayton loses a regular season conference game as well as their conference tournament. I really think Dayton is going to do great things in their conference. And then my number 1 non-Power 5 conference team that is unranked that you should buy stock on is Rice. Rice, I feel, is also another one of those underrated teams just because they're kind of second banana to Western Kentucky, though they did make the NCAA tournament and they did have an NCAA tournament win last season. But for me, I think Rice is very underappreciated. I think they have the potential. The potential is definitely there. They returned quite a number of players from last year. But for me, I think they are going to be a team to watch for. I definitely think that they're not going to be anyone to sleep on. They went 3-0 last weekend. They swept Houston and Samford, and they also defeated LSU in 5 sets. This weekend they play Oregon, which is going to be a heck of a good matchup. And they also play other talented teams such as Texas Tech, which wound up making the NCAA tournament, Kansas State, which also wound up making the NCAA tournament, and they also play Creighton. Those are really good matchups just because after that Creighton matchup, they open up Conference USA play, and then they're also, and sometime down the road, I think Rice plays someone else. No, they don't. I thought Rice played, no, they do. Rice plays Baylor right in the middle of conference play, right before their next conference game following their UTEP match. But overall, I think this Rice team has a lot of upside to them. They returned quite a number of players, such as Carly Graham at setter. I really think that Rice is going to do great things for this team, and I don't think anyone should sleep on this team. I think that's everyone's problem. Everyone sleeps on this team too much, and eventually they wind up getting the short end of the stick. So those are my non-Power 5 conference teams to watch for. I'm just going to skim through my matches to watch for in week 2. So my sneaky good matchups for this weekend, just because we have a lot of matchups this weekend that are definitely worth noting. We'll start off with sneaky good. We have Arkansas at Colorado State on Thursday. Then we have UCLA at Hawaii on Sunday. Notre Dame at Long Beach State on Saturday. Number 9, Baylor at Pepperdine on Thursday. Utah State at number 7, BYU on Thursday. And Rice at number 18, Oregon on Saturday. As for the notable matchups, they consist of number 9, Illinois at number 14, Washington on Sunday. Number 24, Marquette at number 6, Wisconsin on Sunday. Number 25, USC at number 17, Creighton on Friday. Dayton at number 5, Georgia Tech on Friday. Utah at number 11, Purdue on Friday. Number 16, Kentucky at number 17, Creighton on Saturday. And number 3, Louisville at number 22, Western Kentucky on Wednesday. And then the definitely worth noting matchups to watch for is number 1, Texas at number 12, Stanford on Sunday. Number 8, Ohio State at number 3, Louisville on Sunday. Number 3, Florida at number 4, Minnesota on Sunday. Number 10, Pitt at number 7, BYU on Saturday. Number 15, San Diego at number 8, number 15, San Diego at number 8, Ohio State at Louisville on Saturday. Number 15, San Diego at number 3, Louisville on Friday. Number 12, Stanford at number 13, Florida on Tuesday. And my match of the week, and this is an absolute no-brainer, number 4, Minnesota at number 1, Texas on Wednesday. That is going to be a big barn burner right there. And that's on a Wednesday, mind you. And that is going to do it for my matchups to watch for this week. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Set Point. Without any further delay, let's drop that beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. I'm sorry if I went nearly 2 hours, but we have so much volleyball to get into, so little time. I appreciate everyone tuning in, and I appreciate everyone's support. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to Davidson Crooks and Mike Chat in the live chat room, and also shout out to Patty Bax, who is listening in the background. I really do appreciate all of your support. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. You all have yourself a great rest of the evening. Enjoy the volleyball action. If you are going to a volleyball event at any kind, please don't be a bad person. Cheer them on with positivity and passion. Don't be a terrible person like that one person from BYU was. I will see you all Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Until then, you all have yourself a great rest of the week, and I'll see you Friday. Peace!